Okay, this is part 2 of the dual battery installation for 2003 Yukon XL. I think it may range all the way up to, I don't know, 2011. But if you have a Chevy or Yukon and your setup is that you have space here to mount a second battery and your main battery is over here, most likely this video can prove helpful if you're trying to do a dual battery installation. Okay, so in part 1 of my video, I did not have a dual battery or the second battery mounted. So here I have it installed. It is an Optima Blue Top AGM deep cycle battery here, and I ran the wires along the top of the firewall here. Okay. And got it connected here to the alternator and down to the ignition fuse tap as well. So I'll show you guys all that information. So I just want to run things down real quick. So I did install some 200 amp fuses, two to each positive battery terminal. One coming off the isolator and one that's coming off this deep cycle. So here you see the positive battery wire here, and let me see if you guys can see it, but right there, that clear contraption there, that is my 200 amp fuse. Okay, and that guy is wired to the isolator. Now, part 1, I told you that my isolator was mounted just for by one bolt or whatever. So it seems to be handling sticking there. It seems to be mounted pretty good. So no problems there. You can see the wires are ran across here. And if we stop here, you can see that this particular wire here is for your ground. So the negative battery cable that's coming from the deep cycle is mounted here for ground on the negative battery terminal. Okay. So this guy right here is coming off the isolator. Still going, it's going across and eventually leads up to my alternator here. Okay, so here I have it mounted to the alternator, and I did take the rubber boot off the little small wire that was on and put it on this big 4-gauge wire, so it wasn't hard to do. So I just wanted to keep the boot and everything clean and protected. So that seemed to be working out pretty good. Now, this particular red and black wire that's running along, that's for my ignition, and that guy is mounted to the isolator as well here. Okay. Now, this guy goes along the firewall and to the fuse box. Okay. We take the fuse box off. We can see that I have it coming in here and going to this particular fuse here. It's a double fuse. You can see 2 10s, see? 2 10s. Okay. 1 10 is for the wire that's coming in. The other one is for the 10 that should be that you're replacing. So you can find it at any auto parts place, so that should be straightforward. So there's another fuse, okay, here, 200 amp, and this is the guy that's actually ran to the alternator. Okay, so it's 2 fuses. One is over here, coming off the positive battery terminal, and the other one is coming off the isolator and running over to the firewall, and it's here. And then the end result is to the alternator here. Okay. So the setup has been working pretty good. Had it connected for about I want to say probably about 2 weeks now. Everything seems to be running pretty good. Everything's charging, no fluctuations in the battery gauge or anything like that. Everything seems to be working pretty good. So I hope this video helps everyone out. If you have any questions, feel free to do so. But it's pretty much straightforward. So there's one thing I do want to point out is that these are the connections for this isolator here. I just want to zoom in on that, just in case anybody wants to know. These are the connections for it. But like I said, you're going to see some videos when people go ahead and mount their isolators up here. Just like in part 1 of my video, I did not want to go ahead and tap in to any particular metal or make any particular holes or anything more time consuming. I want everything to be most likely straightforward because I have other things I have to do. So in a nutshell, that's the actual install. But there's one more thing I also want to point out, is that in part 1 of my video, I don't recall, I think I had a extension for the positive battery terminal here for my main battery. I was going to go ahead and instead of it connecting the wire to the alternator, I was going to connect it to the positive battery terminal here. One thing is that if I would have did that, I would have lost the use of this particular cap here. This cap does a very good job for me anyway, as far as keeping any moisture or water and everything off this terminal and keeping it pretty clean. So what I ended up doing is that I ended up taking that tap back, okay, getting a refund on it, and just getting a brand new one here for the positive and negative, and just getting a new one as far as the default ones that originally go there, okay? Because I didn't end up using this tap for the positive battery terminal. I ended up going and connecting it to the alternator here instead, okay? Same concept, because if you go and you look into this guy here, okay, this is where your positive battery connects to, and your alternator, and that little teeny weeny alternator wire here connects to, okay? So everything shares the same little alternator current, it seems, okay? So that's it in my video. Any questions or concerns, feel free to give me a shout out.